I'm CM Magana from the Strange and Unusual podcast, a proud member of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the show you're listening to now. The opinions expressed are those of each individual host. Check out all the other podcasts at GonnaGeekNetwork.com and get ready because geekiness begins in 3, 2, 1.
This is it. The part of your week where you get to put your headphones on, relax, and listen to a bunch of geeks geek out about geeky things. They're passionate.
As a Canadian, I will say that more than likely, I'm just going to get screwed another way. That's the way it always works.
They're knowledgeable.
Maybe that's where life began, on MU-69. We don't know.
And sometimes they're a bit angry.
Skype, I'm breaking up with you. It's not me, it's totally you.
Gonna Geek Productions presents the official GonnaGeek.com show.
Hello and welcome to episode 205 of the official GonnaGeek.com show. I am Stephen Jondrew, and with me, of course, is Chris Ferrell.
I can't see, I stared at the sun too long.
I also have with us a special guest. His name is Nate.
I'm Batman.
Wow, you're Batman, hey?
I'm sorry, wait. I'm Batman.
Are you Superman?
No.
Why? Because can't Batman and Superman be the same person?
Well,
No.
if you're Superman, you gotta have a mustache.
Okay, I'm completely lost. But yes, we are here today with another episode of the official GonnaGeek.com show. We're going to run down some geeky stuff. And if you are not watching us live, we do record Mondays at 5:45 p.m. Pacific time. That is 8:45 p.m. Eastern. You can find us at www.geeks.live. Usually you will find myself, Chris Ferrell, and Stargate Pioneer here, but SP is away because he is off. Apparently, I don't know, it's coincidence. The Eclipse was today. The director of SNAS is away. You guys can fill in the rest.
It's a conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly.
Since we are doing this on Eclipse Day, I think we should call ourselves the official podcast of the Eclipse.
I second that.
Award-winning Eclipse podcast.
You know what we'll be called? We'll be called the Suncast.
I see what you did there.
I didn't do anything. Special credit there to Emily Prokop of the Story Behind podcast, who totally dropped that joke on me earlier. Kind of similar. The basis of that joke. I ripped it off, yes. Oh, yes. SP will be back not next week, because actually next week we're going to be skipping a week, but the week after that SP will be back. So if you are used to hearing us every week, unfortunately, next week you'll have to roll a tear for us because we will be away. But yeah, we'll be back the week after that, unless, of course, everything goes wrong, because let's be honest, in the world of podcasting, everything can always go wrong.
That's not happy thoughts. I'm scared now.
Isn't it Happy Thoughts?
No.
I thought
I
it
want
was.
to go to my happy place.
Are you sure it's not Happy
Happy
Thoughts?
place.
Because I'm pretty sure it's Happy Thoughts.
Shh, I'm in my happy place, Steven.
Well, my happy place is not here, so
The
let's just
place
go ahead
where
and move on
everyone
to the
has
news.
watched every Marvel show on Netflix.
Yes, and they don't try and rile me up by saying Jessica Jones sucks.
All right, so there's news, and there's apparently breaking news, according to Chris Ferrell.
Yeah, there's breaking news that Steven just blind tossed me his own news story. Yay!
No, okay, so here's the deal with the breaking news. This is a play on words, because YouTube, if you've ever watched YouTube, I know a thing or two about using YouTube. I've used it a couple of times, and when you log into YouTube, you get yourself the little sections, and it divides it up, and sometimes it's like things you're interested in, or it's just like sexy videos. You know, it's just a bunch of different options, and apparently they are starting to test the breaking news category in some accounts. Now, not everybody has this, but what it means is you're going to get in your carousel there, this is what they call it, a section that says breaking news. The intention being that shocking breaking news is up there. So really current videos from different news sources. And so I guess this is really just a play for Google to try to enhance the up to the minute experience with YouTube. Because I don't know about you, but I know whenever I've used YouTube, I find that sometimes it's really hard to even find new stuff. So I think this is neat. I'm a sucker for watching people deliver news rather than actually have to read it, because I don't like to read. I don't know how to read, but no, I know how to read. But that is something that I
Just
would
not well.
It's not well. So I would prefer to see it on YouTube. So what do you think about this, Nate?
So I actually consume quite a bit of news shows on YouTube. So this is kind of interesting. Like just one Philip DeFranco show, for example. There's quite a few other shows that I try to get a wide range of news from to get all sides of it. So when I first heard about this, was really excited. I might find some new outlets, new channels to find information, because I make a point to listen to stuff that's outside of my views, just to make sure I understand all sides of an argument that I may not have thought about. So this is super exciting for me, and potentially gives a lot of exposure to people who were buried in the previous kind of functionality.
Yeah, no, I agree. Now I want to ask our former news director on the network, Chris, what's your thoughts?
Wow, I'm getting all sorts of job titles I never got paid for.
Yeah, that's pretty true. That's
It is pretty
totally
true.
100% true.
So it's a nice thing to see, in all honesty. Pretty much any days, if you want to watch live news, you can go to the direct website. You can go to CNN. You can go to Fox News. You can go to the AP. You can go to Sky News, anything like that. They're all going to stream things there. But if you can kind of take Google News, where I go for a lot of my news because it aggregates from multiple sources, and do the same with the video news stories on YouTube, it's kind of nice to have a one-stop shop where you can try and see things from viewpoints that might not be your own, viewpoints that might be yours. I kind of like being able to have a one-stop shop if it's possible to aggregate multiple sources. The real question is, how good is this breaking news section going to be?
Did you say that you can go to Skynet? Is that what you said?
Skynet, yes. Skynet is happening right now behind the scenes. John Connor is stuck in some sort of time limbo, and the Terminators are here to kill us. All of us.
I think you bring up a good point, though, in all seriousness, about how is this going to work out. And I think that it's something that with time, it'll probably get better, because let's be honest, Google's really good at predicting what we might possibly be interested in seeing. So I think it's just a matter of time till that happens. The other thing that I think is going to be sort of interesting to follow is how quickly this can be bought.
Yeah, that and the concerns are also right. So there's algorithms that try that, because everything's ad revenue based. They're trying to target you with videos that are going to make you sit through the ads. So if you tend to lean, let's say, politically left or right, in theory, it's going to start leaning you in those news outlets. So if you're trying to find a more centric, or if you're trying to look at all sides of the argument, that actually could be a strike against Google and YouTube in general, because they're trying to focus in on that exact thing you want every time. But if you're in the middle, that's going to be that. My biggest question is, how good is their algorithm for suggesting things that don't make it an obvious, complete, landslide on either side?
So I think this is where they can leverage the expertise they have behind the Google News site, because I've used Google News for years. And yes, it learns the kind of news stories you care about. So it knows the kind of tech stories I like and tailors that a little bit. But when you expand one of those items, there's generally multiple sources it displays. So you could open some story about Stephen Jondrew starts the Gonna Geek Network, doesn't pay his co-hosts, some story. And when you expand that, you could get it from about 6 different sources if you so choose to. So you can try and see it from the Canadian press point of view, the US press point of view, the Cayman Islands press point of view, where all the money's being funneled to, stuff like that.
Contract is void and null. That's all I'm going to say about that. You weren't allowed to talk about that.
I'd like to see the contract I signed, sir.
You don't remember it because I probed you at the time. But mind probe. That's what it was. Mind probe.
Good save.
I was scared.
I was like, I wasn't ready for this type of podcast.
All right. So while we wonder whether or not Google is going to start injecting ads and just feeding us what we want into our YouTube videos, let's find out what cop mode is.
So iOS 11, they're starting to send out previews for the newest version of Apple's phone software. If you didn't know what iOS 11 was, and they have a new functionality that they're calling it's an emergency mode, but some people are calling it the cop button. So what it does is if you rapidly press the home button 5 times, it's going to open up a second basic, not really home screen, but an alternate screen that's got an SOS button that you slide, and it will call emergency contacts. It also disables the thumbprint reader, so you have to put a password to get out of this mode. So the reason why it's potentially called a cop button is in some states that they can physically require you to place your finger on the fingerprint reader. It's no different than asking you to blow in a breathalyzer, things like that. It's been deemed allowed to do that thing in some states. However, in a lot of those same states, they can't make you put a password in because that's protected by free speech. So that's one of the interesting things about this button. If you disable the button, you still have the ability to call someone. So it's still got the functionality of, instead of trying to fumble and unlock your phone, you can just spam the home button and then swipe, and you're immediately calling emergency services. But this new functionality is getting kind of controversial on if it's a good or a bad thing.
Okay, so obviously you gave us the reason why it's being dubbed the cop mode, but this is something that I don't believe Apple would develop it for that reason. So what is their spin on this? Do you know?
It's a safety function. It's to improve the overall experience, because you can select what contacts get notified, and it also starts spamming the user's location. So it's got some functionality. If you remove the Touch ID function out of it that disables the button, it would be hailed as this amazing thing, and nobody would bat an eye besides, that's really cool. But because it disables the button, is where that one sole part of it is where it makes it go from super awesome feature everyone loves to a potentially controversial one to use.
So I can kind of see what they're getting at there. It's a nice safety tool. If for some reason you're in trouble or you've been in a car accident or something like that, and you can't actually dial, but you can hit the home button a few times, 5 times to trigger all this. Kind of nice in that regard. It's definitely a pretty cool safety feature. And Apple's done some similar stuff before didn't they have some kind of like emergency button on there before that would work? I don't remember exactly. It's been a while since I had an iPhone.
They have the emergency button to where if you don't know the password, you can still call 911. Right. Okay. Like my daughter, she already knows how. We've practiced. She's 5. She knows how to hit the button. She doesn't have to buy a password. She hits the E word, says emergency, and just swipes, and it calls 911.
See, that's kind of cool. I like the whole safety aspect of it in that regard. That's neat.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a few different reasons this could be a thing, and I'm okay with this. I think that we need to be a little bit aware of sort of the world we live in now, and the way that phones and stuff can be misused. So I'm okay with this. I am absolutely okay with this. And I think that I hope Android actually does something similar.
Surprised they don't.
It has some other functionality because you set up the contacts in the health app under your like in case of emergency contacts, and you can put a few in there. So if you go the whole age range, if I'm a father of a teenager, they can spam the button, boom, if they're in trouble in their situation, maybe they can't get on the phone because they're hiding or they're not comfortable. It can contact me, let me know where they're at. Go to the other end of the spectrum. If like my grandmother has, memory issues, worst case scenario, you spam that button, swipe it, and then I get a text of where she's at. And I also get notified that she needs help. So there's a lot of great functionality to it.
So Samsung evidently has some kind of emergency mode on the S5 through the S8. It would appear just on a quick Google search for Android and emergency mode. I don't see anything baked into Android natively. I might be missing something, so if I am, let us know in the chat room.
Yeah, well, that'll be interesting to see now, again, that Apple has done something, because let's be totally honest. When Apple does something, it changes the world. They're world changing. That's... What was their slogan? It's not world changing. It's
we don't need a slogan. We're
revolutionary. Apple. That's what it is. It's revolutionary.
Yeah, that's what. Never mind. We're not talking about the iPhone
But their
7S.
slogan, we have more money than like 15 countries.
True story.
Fair point.
Very true story.
So speaking of those who just want to live off of our happiness and they want to sell us all sorts of products that we can't afford and just make us sponges for their business, Amazon's about to get a little less spongy, isn't that right, Chris?
Potentially. So I don't know if you guys realize I have a bit of a problem. I buy too much stuff from Amazon because it's far too easy. I can just tell my Amazon voice services device, I don't want to say the actual word, to order something.
You mean Alexa? Is that the word you didn't want to say? Is that what you didn't want to say?
You know, you're setting off the listeners' Amazon voice services devices right now. So send your hate mail, listeners, to Steven@gonnageek.com for triggering your devices.
I'll agree with you. In fact, I'll even say, okay, Google this.
Oh. Don't forget to ask Cortana about it, too.
Hey, Cortana.
Or Siri. If we're gonna, let's just trigger all the devices and make everyone mad real quick.
My phone just turned on.
All right, go ahead, Chris.
So in all seriousness, if you do remember, Amazon, and I didn't quite realize this until I thought about it, it's real easy to buy stuff on Amazon, not necessarily because they have everything, but there's this nice little buy with one click button they have there. And if you've enabled your account, you can say, "Ooh, I really need this, insert product name here." Buy with one click. It sends it directly to you. What I didn't realize is that for basically the last 20 years, Amazon has patented, and trademarked their one-click technology. So if anyone else on the internet wanted to use it, they had to pay Amazon for this one-click checkout. Here's an example. In 2000, Apple paid to put it in the Apple Store and on iTunes Music. So they're paying a licensing fee to Apple right now. It's not novel. It's not revolutionary, this one-click, because it's pretty easy to develop, let's be honest. Amazon was just the first to file a patent back in 1997 that was then granted in 1999. Then in September of 1999, Amazon sued Barnes & Noble because they were using the same capability, and they won.
What?
It's a patent that Amazon has been fiercely defending for 20 years now because it's powerful. It's frictionless buying. And if you're an internet superstore, you want to make it as easy as possible to buy something. So literally, one button push, that's as easy as it gets, and everyone else wants to get it. And up until now, they've had to pay Amazon to license it out. Here's the thing. This one-click patent expires September 11th, 2017. Then you're going to see everyone probably drop on one-click purchasing onto their websites because no longer do they have to pay Amazon to license the one-click service. How cool is that? I didn't even realize how in-depth this was. And what do you want to bet? September 12th, everyone's got the code ready. As soon as this expires, you're going to see every e-commerce site out there. One-click purchase, one-click purchase, one-click purchase.
Oh, totally. I'll bet that people already have the code ready to go. They're just waiting to drop it. I would bet $1 on that.
Canadian or US?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'll go US.
That's like half your income.
That's true. You know,
there's a lot of things in tech that kind of follow the same thing that are totally ingrained that you don't realize another company owns, like the one-click thing. Like, for example, cell phones. For the longest time, every single radio in a cell phone was made by Nokia. Samsung, Apple, everybody had a Nokia transmitter in their phone, basically. Then the patent ran out, and then everything changed. So this actually is this. I did not know this at all. This was a complete surprise on my end, and I think about it now, how few places have a one-click on the smaller sites I tend to shop. I wonder if that lawsuit had anything to do with the lack of Barnes & Noble stores around now.
I don't know. All I know is Amazon probably did not license that for cheap whatsoever for Apple to get it, because you know how Apple and Amazon play nice. They're kind of frenemies, I guess is the best way of putting it.
I was surprised when you put this in our doc. I was completely shocked that this was a trademarked tool. I would never have guessed that.
It's like I said in the story, I'd vaguely remembered something about it. It was in some like little Amazon biopic or like documentary I'd watched at some point, and I've kind of put in the back of my head, I was like, oh, that's cool. I didn't know they could license that. And then I saw this article online and I was like, that's really cool. I had no idea they licensed it out. And I was going, I wonder how many other people realize that. So I really just wanted to share it.
That's cool. You know, I'm looking forward though to next week, 2 weeks from now on Geeks.live, making our one-click payment for this page.
It will be after that date, won't it?
Can
No,
you
it won't.
live stream
We can't do it. We can't do it. We'll get sued.
3 weeks from now.
3 weeks.
3 weeks. Sorry, 3 weeks
3.
from now. Okay, 3 weeks.
You get Twitch up for that.
And by the way, in the chat, M-Beam does say, wait until I unleash my 10-click purchase system. Ha ha! I'll show you.
Yeah, it's called buying something on Walmart.com.
Oh,
Well
man.
played. Well
So
played.
true.
I'm not wrong. I'm still bitter
No.
about my SNES Classic getting canceled.
Well, the good news is it's supposed to be good in like 3 weeks from now, 2 weeks from now. Should be a
Something
pre-order
like
should
that.
be up.
Yeah, I won't be able to get it. I hate you as much as Skype, Walmart. You're on my list.
that's
You're
a lot.
on my list.
Wow.
Shots fired.
On the list.
Stock is dropping at both companies right now.
Yeah, because I'm an impact on their stock. I'm an
Yeah.
impact on Amazon's stock, not Walmart's. I'm firmly in Amazon's back pocket with everything I've bought from them.
All right. Well, let's just go ahead and move on here to our extra section where we got a couple of quick topics for you. We're going to start off with one that should bring a smile to your face. And let's just put it this way. Bing is a alternative to Google for those not familiar. Bing is Microsoft's version of Google.
Bing. You're
And-
funny.
They've got a maps system as well, just like Google Maps. And one of the things that they do is they want to highlight on the maps different places around the world. So what they do is they put a picture up there that shows as the background a place that you could be from satellite view. Well, apparently on August 17th, Bing didn't really proof their pictures super well because they decided to place a beach. Now that sounds pretty good, right? Well, sometimes in life, the immaturity sets in and people like to draw certain male organs in the sand, and then
Armpits.
that was actually visible on the Bing site. So Microsoft actually wanted to keep the background. They didn't elect to change it. No, they just went in and photoshopped out the male organ. So I gotta say, stuff like that's hilarious because number one, you know, the people who were doing it never thought it was going to be satellite captured, right? They were just like, hey, if someone stands back and see, look at this. Number two, Microsoft picked this being like, oh yeah, it's beautiful. Number three, you know that there was some junior somewhere that saw it and went, and
Wait,
thus
Did
that happened.
Microsoft pick it or did their algorithm pick it?
I don't know. I'm not
I
sure.
mean,
That's a
well,
good
let's be
question.
honest, this is a pretty good internet trend of putting random objects in the map views or satellite pictures to see what comes out of it, because there's some fun that can be had with some, well, at least in the past, with some Google Street View settings where you could go through and see people doing dumb stuff in the streets, people flipping off the car, people mooning the car, people holding up signs of the Google Street View car. Again, I swear I speak English. So it's kind of become an internet hobby to do stupid things and see if you can get them through. And the fact that that Bing put up a beachfront with an anatomy picture in it, it's kind of funny. My guess is it's probably some kind of algorithm that selected it based off of somebody dropped a bunch of stuff in a folder where it's like pretty pictures for Bing homepage or something like that.
Probably.
I learned a very important lesson. I live in Florida, which is surrounded by beaches, so I constantly draw things in the sand, some of which could be used in a Disney movie, some may be used in similar manner. I forever now will hold up deuces to the sky and look up and hold it for 2 minutes to hope to get credit for later.
If you hear a drone flying overhead, just automatically look up and be like, deuces.
It's going to happen.
You got to do it. We're in a drone society now.
Absolutely. So, of course, we had to talk about that because, again, hilarious. Next thing that we've got here is actually from our guest, Nate.
Yeah, so just a real quick, everyone knows the unfortunate events of Charlottesville, but one of the interesting outcomes of that is a lot of tech companies are starting to kind of the reverse of voting with their wallet. They're actually stopping providing services to extreme groups. Now, it's not just the Charlottesville, but it's all. But a bunch of the result of Charlottesville is a bunch of the news sites or forums and websites that help support this. They were found in violation of terms of service and removed from service. This is Google, Facebook, PayPal. Some really big companies have completely shut down some of these organizations from being able to use their services to promote whatever they're trying to promote. Thought it was a kind of a interesting take on the businesses kind of step in and be a part of the social fabric of the country.
Yeah, I saw this, and I think what's interesting about it is that a lot of them are just like finally taking action, because the terms of service in many of these places haven't changed, but they've just never done anything about it. So it's really intriguing to me to see them actually finally execute on their terms of service on this and take a stand. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
So here's the cynic in me. Why didn't they before?
It's a great point. One that I could theorize on, but I couldn't say for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's great that they're doing that now, but just because of the events in Charlottesville happening, it doesn't make the hate speech that was on there any more hateful. It's been there for years, months, years in some of these cases. Why is it now all of a sudden? Because the public's looking at it. If Charlottesville hadn't happened, would they have yanked those sites down? Probably not, because they'd been dealing with them for years. And I hate being that cynical. I salute them. Seriously, applause. Thank you for taking those things down. Thank you for making people follow the terms of service. But you should have been doing it beforehand. If we're going to get dinged on YouTube because we play like 5 seconds out of a Ninja Warrior episode or something ridiculous like that, how are you not catching hate speech and things like that and pulling that stuff down? It's crazy.
Yeah. No, I agree. And by the way, in the chat, Emily Prokop says podcasting services are doing this for shows that incite violence. So that's great too. I'm glad to see podcast services doing that. I actually hadn't heard about that. So that's interesting. Thanks for educating me on that, Emily. And the last piece in our extra that we have comes courtesy of our Financial Nerve Center correspondent, Neil. Neil linked me a fun little article today that talks about how Elon Musk has called for a ban on killer robots before weapons of terror are unleashed. Yes, that's right. Tesla chief Elon Musk has said that artificial intelligence is more of a risk to the world than North Korea, offering humanity a stark warning about the rise of these machines.
Did you almost say rise of the machines? Because we would have gotten so sued. Oh, wait, we're going to get sued now.
I kind of talked in the last episode or the episode before about how there are some interesting perspectives on AI and what we need to do to get ahead of AI. And it's Elon Musk. How can you not take what he says seriously?
Well, I think his position got him the ability for someone to say it and other people to hear it, right? Because if any one of the three of us say it, we're the cute little geeks on the little podcast. So it brings the conversation to, is it a possibility? Have we just seen too many movies, read too many Isaac Asimov books? It's what's the proof that this could happen besides we've all imagined it happening? So I don't know that he's wrong, but I can't say that he's right either. It's one of those, how do you prove it?
Just wait for the machines.
I think what's interesting though, when we look at the whole situation that I mentioned when I talked about this last, was Facebook developing their AI developing their own language. I think that the potential is there, and not necessarily in the sci-fi way that we're so used to, where it's like the sci-fi people, the sci-fi bots get together and they make a conscious effort to destroy humanity. But I think the reality is that we are only so smart as the human race, and that there could be something beyond us that we don't recognize, that we implement in a critical system or component to the way our society works, and it just shuts it down, right? I think that's my concern. It's not the rise up and hate humans. That's not what it is. It's just we execute this in somewhere that is catastrophic towards a critical part of our society. Just
remember, Stephen, when the machines rise up, there is no spoon. No spoon.
Which pills do I want? The red or the blue? Which one? I always forget which it is.
Should have taken the blue pill.
Yeah, you take the red pill to get out.
While you may know that Chris loves phones, tablets, and other gadgets, did you know that he's also a master tap dancer?
time for him to combine these passions. Welcome to Chris Taps That App.
What Steven's not telling you is I tap dance live every time we play that bump. I'm tapping right now. You hear those taps going in the background.
You could just picture him on a stage somewhere too.
Yep, I'm tapping when I'm sitting in my desk chair. Just imagine how that works.
All right, so you're kind of tapping the app today.
There's an app involved in what I want to talk to you guys about, but it's not the primary focus. You guys know, if you've watched this show for a while, that I started dabbling in home automation. I dabbled a little too much, and then I convinced Steven to also dabble in home automation. So we've kind of got this cold war of home automation going right now. He ups his game, I up my game, and vice versa. I'm just not sure which one of us is the USA and which is the USSR. We'll have to figure that out.
I'll be the USSR because I want to be back in the USSR.
All right, then.
I was just wanting to...
Was that an 84 reference?
No, I think that was the Beatles in like 65. So there you go.
Anyway, let's go on with me sorta tapping that app right here. So this is an enhancement to my home automation setup. And this time I want to talk to you guys about some water leak sensors that I've picked up and added to things. It's something I did not have before. It is the Honeywell Lyric leak sensors that I picked up. Now, how did I get clued in on these? I'd seen them online before. I'd looked at them and I'd gone, I'm not sure I want to pay the price for that, because it varied from anywhere between 60 to $100 for one of the sensors. And I said, I don't know if I want to do that. Luckily, I lucked into not having to do that. My bank that I also have my homeowner's insurance through was posting about this thing on Facebook, their official Facebook page, about a pilot project they're doing with Honeywell for their homeowner's insurance program, where they are going to give customers Honeywell Lyric leak sensors to place in their house to see whether there are cost savings that can come from detecting a leak early. And that kind of appealed to me. I'd had an issue in the past where an old washing machine gave out and flooded my basement a little bit, and I was there with the carpet cleaner trying to suck water out of the basement because I didn't realize it until 30 minutes after the leak had started that had happened. And had I had a leak sensor there, I would have been notified immediately. So I saw the benefit and why you might want these sensors. So from their Facebook page, they had a link to Honeywell's site where I went online, I signed up for it, and I went, well, maybe I'll get some sensors out of the deal. Who knows? And then just randomly one day, I get a notification to my email, you have a UPS box coming. And I paused. I went, well, I do have an Amazon problem, but I'm 99% sure I haven't ordered anything. So I'm not sure what's going to be showing up on my front porch. And lo and behold, when I got home, it was 4 of these leak sensors. So they sent me 4 for this pilot project so that I could be a tester for them. Now, there is a trade-off. Being a tester with them means that A, they can be notified at any alerts or alarms that come off out of there. They can randomly pull some of the data that's captured from that to analyze what the benefits are for them. But I signed up for that knowing that, and honestly, they already know where I live because they do my homeowner's insurance. I don't care if they know the name of my Wi-Fi network. You can drive by my house and probably figure it out if you know me. FYI, it's called Shield.
Right, fair point.
I mean, you would probably figure that's me. It's either Shield or Stark Industries. I have 2 networks, but that's neither here nor there. So I did get some of these sensors to set up. So let me talk to you guys a little bit about this process. Here is the size of that box. It's not overly large. It gives you an idea of what the sensor looks like, tells you what all it does. It detects freezes, doesn't require any kind of hubs, does mobile alerts, and works with their Lyric app. It's pretty decently sized. You can see on the back, it works with iOS, also works with Android. Not a bad setup. So you look at that, you go, well, this must be a fairly big sensor. Yeah, it's not. Here, guys, this is what the Honeywell Lyric sensors looks like. It's hockey puck sized at best.
Yeah, I was gonna say, for the audio listener, it like easily fits in the palm of Chris's hands. Now, Chris does have gorilla hands, so I
don't have Trump hands. I have regular man hands. And how this works is you basically, if you look on the back, you see there's 2 metal contacts here. You set this wherever your locations of concern are, and it can detect any water that's on the floor. But it also comes included with this cable that's basically a wick. And what I'm holding up here is a cable that's probably about 2.5 feet long. It's like a braided nylon cable, and on one end of it, there's a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, it appears. All you really do, plug that into the base of the Honeywell sensor, and you've basically got a giant water sensing wick. So you can stretch this sensor over a long distance. It's great. I have it set up in some of my bathrooms where there's one end underneath the sink, and one end that stretches all the way to underneath the toilet in case there's a toilet leak that starts. And if water's detected anywhere, it triggers. Neat little sensors run on 3 AA batteries. So let me talk about the setup process a little bit. You guys know I've talked about I have a Wink hub before. That's what I use for all my home automation. Sadly, Honeywell stuff does not integrate with Wink. I have a way around it, and I'll talk to you guys about that as we get later on. So I did have to download the Honeywell Lyric app. It's available on both iOS and Android. I downloaded it for both. Originally, I'd only downloaded it for Android. However, I ran into issues with my Android setup, but I don't think that's a consequence of Lyric having a bad app or anything like that. I've also had issues using my Android phone to do Bluetooth setup on Amazon Voice Services devices, but not with my iOS devices. So I did use my iPad to set these up. I do believe I have a Bluetooth issue that needs to be addressed in my older Android phone, and I don't care. I've got other devices that do it. So it's real easy to do. You basically pull up the Honeywell Lyric app, say you have a sensor to add, put your batteries in this, and it starts broadcasting, connects over Bluetooth, and then you give it the password for your Wi-Fi network and connect it. One catch, this only works on 2.4 gigahertz networks, so it will not work on your 5 gigahertz bands. But again, who cares? It's barely broadcasting any data. You don't need to put it on the lesser congested 5 gigahertz band. Setup for each one of these sensors took maybe 2 minutes max. I spent more time actually laying out how I want the sensors placed in some rooms than I did actually doing the setup. It was incredibly easy. Places I put this, I mentioned earlier, I have one in the half bath, I have one in my laundry room, I've put one in my hot water, in my utility closet underneath the hot water heater, I've put one underneath my kitchen sink. Pretty much anywhere where a leak could happen, I've got one of these devices placed so that I can be informed as soon as it happens. How do I get informed? By default, it's going to notify me by sending a notification to any of my devices that have the Honeywell Lyric app on it. Now, that's only in my case 2 devices. I might want to get this other places. Well, don't worry, I do have a plan for that. Real quick though, it does also give you some other information you can glean though. When you put these sensors in there, it then starts capturing the temperature and the humidity every 12 hours or so, it seems, where it's placed. So you can kind of plot and see how your temperature and humidity has changed over time. Because remember, this will also detect freezes if you're in danger of a pipe freezing and things like that. It's a nice little extra touch. And I did find out that my basement does run a good deal cooler than, say, my living room during this time of year. And I'm really curious to see what happens in the winter, because you guys have seen me before, you know I generally have to turn on a space heater down here because it's cold. It's really cold down here in the winter. So that's something I look forward to playing with a little as things progress. Now, I teased earlier, how do I make these Honeywell sensors play nice with the rest of my home automation? It's a tool that Steve and I have both talked about on this podcast before. There's a website called ifttt.com. It stands for if this, then that. You can use it to integrate a variety of different services and make it do things. So I basically set up a bunch of IFT triggers. That's what we call them, IFT. I've got triggers in place so that if it detects water, it's going to change the color of my lights in my living room to blue. It's going to turn on a notification that fires off to my cell phone as a text message. It's even going to put a notification up on my TV screen that says, hey, there's a leak detected at, and whatever the sensor name is. So using IFT, I'm able to kind of extend the capabilities that this has. If I really wanted to, I could even set it up to call people's cell phone numbers and say, hey, there's a leak in your house. And in fact, I might do it so that when my parents are around, I could be like, hey, if you get a call about this, let me know, because sometimes my cell phone's not going to work where I am at work. IFT is a great tool for this.
Do you have any experience using IFT for anything?
I'm glad you mentioned that. So if you watched the Starling Tribune, you might have seen some problems I had with some of my IFT triggers that did what I needed them to, but made for a very awkward podcast.
Oh, I just wish that we had a clip of that.
Wouldn't that be great if we had a clip? Make sure you check out 9 p.m. tonight, Geeks.live, PopXcast.
Heads up, there's smoke in the living room. The alarm may sound. The alarm is loud.
So describe what that was there, Mr. Ferrell, because I don't know that the video or the audio viewers really knew what was happening there.
So the video doesn't fully showcase what happened, but I did replace all my smoke detectors in my house with Nest Protects, which do CO2, do carbon monoxide, they do smoke detecting and things like that. And when we were finishing up the Starling Tribune last night, my girlfriend was upstairs cooking dinner and she's cooking steaks on high heat. It made things a little smoky in the house, which then set off the smoke detector up there. And since they're all networked together, it set off the smoke detector down here, alerting me that there was smoke detected in my living room. And had I not turned off the video or had the video run a little bit longer, probably about 3 seconds longer, you would have seen the lamp over my shoulder turn on because I have a smart bulb in that. Because I have an if trigger in place that if there is a smoke detector that goes off in the house, it turns every light on to 100%, turns the color changing bulbs red, and pushes notifications to every single device. So my house was going insane when the smoke detector went off. And I went, well, I guess it's good that these triggers actually worked, but damn, this is really annoying for a false alarm. I kid you not. Every time I'd go upstairs and like Amazon voice services, turn off my lights. 10 seconds later, there's an alarm detected in the living room. And I'm like, and all the lights turn red again and turn back on. So it's the double-edged sword of connecting all these pieces together. When it works, it's great. But when it false alerts, you're not liking your life.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I've done a couple of things. I hadn't actually thought about executing the light thing, but I'm going to have to do that because I picked up a couple of water sensors that are nowhere near advanced as this, but I totally want to do that now. And remember, for those who are newer viewers and listeners, I have a very extensive Christmas decorations list that I worked into the smart system last year. So you just think about the fun I could have in the case of an emergency with that. Send help. Like, it would just be amazing.
I'm not allowed to have any more home automation toys.
Oh, what do you got?
Well, I have just kind of basics, turn the lights off, unlock my door, lock my door. I have a water sensor. Well, the issue is in my previous job, I got bored a lot and my wife was at home. And so lights may or may not have gone off randomly. The door may have locked and unlocked randomly. And someone allegedly did not appreciate it as much as I did. And she kind of commands those decisions, so I lost my privileges.
I totally did that once when I was on the road. I knew my wife was watching TV. She said she was just going to go sit down and watch The Bachelor. So what did I do? I changed the lamp to pink. It was fun. Just to
I've done some things like that. I also made the mistake of networking in the TV on those, and I might have inadvertently triggered the TV to do things without realizing it when I was in another room.
All right, so I want to ask you here, Chris. Now that you've got these wonderful water sensors, which if you are in an area that you've got freezing and whatnot, that's one of the biggest advantages to the system that Chris talked about today, because a lot of these other water sensors, like the ones that I have or the other ones that you can get, they don't detect freezing. And this is massive for somewhere like a basement. I want to ask you, do you feel safer?
I feel like I'll be better notified. I don't know that I necessarily feel safer. I feel like I'll be better prepared if I have an issue like this in the future. Like I mentioned, I had a washing machine where seal gave out and it just dumped water all over the place. And I didn't find out until like an hour later when I went downstairs and then cussed up a blue streak. So had I had this sensor notify me as soon as it started detecting water, I probably could have rushed downstairs and saved myself a little bit of cleanup. I feel like there's less chance of something going on for a longer period of time. Stuff's still going to potentially break. It's the nature of home ownership, but I'm better prepared to counter it when it does.
First off, sorry about the foam party. That was my fault. That's what I did.
No worries. It's cool.
Secondly, that's why I put mine in too, was just so I could be better aware if something happened, right? Like, if I'm away, say for example, if I was on vacation and nobody was home and it goes off, well, I'm still on vacation away, but at least I know I can get somebody there rather than sitting around till the person comes to check the house or feed the cats or whatever, maybe 24 hours later, right? Like, it's nice to have. And that's one of the biggest things that I've been looking at with sort of I've done a lot of my fun home automation stuff. So now I'm looking at the more practical, the safety aspect. And I am interested in things like this because why not maximize that? If I can be aware, why not make myself aware? So thanks so much for bringing that up there.
Bear in mind, I got these as part of a pilot project from my insurance company. So I'm a bit more positive on them. I'm not sure if I would personally buy as many if I had to pay the price myself. I probably would have put one in my basement by the washing machine and one to the hot water heater and probably called it a day after that.
Yeah, you just can't really spend that much money on John Wick. That's what you meant by Wicks, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, they're going for about $70 to $100. Yeah,
it is expensive.
It's a good movie, but not $70.
All right, so moving from practical to fun, this is sort of, again, sort of an app, not really. Chris, tell us about how you have no will.
I have no self-control, guys. But I've talked about this before. I ended up getting a pre-order in yesterday for an Xbox One X because, I have a video game addiction in addition to my podcasting gear addiction and tech addiction, and I might have a problem.
Okay, so why did you decide to do the Xbox One X? Because this is something that you actually, if I remember correctly, when it came out or when it was first even rumored, you were a little bit like, well, I don't know that I'd want to do that. Why would I spend my money on that?
You have to have the right use case to upgrade to it. At the time, I did not have a 4K TV. I had a 1080p TV. Since then, I have upgraded to a 4K HDR screen. And pretty much the major feature for why you might want an Xbox One X is if you want to play games in native 4K. Because what that's going to let you do is play a bunch of current Xbox games updated to play in full 4K versus 1080p. And if you have a 4K screen, that's great. Pick up the Xbox One X. You're going to have fun with it. It's a bit pricey, but if you just want to keep playing your regular 1080p games, you can keep running the Xbox One, the Xbox One S. Doesn't matter. So the One X is a total luxury buy. It's because I wanted it. I had a bunch of store credit left over from GameStop when there was a ridiculous trade-in deal that I traded in a crap load of stuff and had a boatload of store credit. So I said, what the heck? And yesterday at Gamescom, they basically announced it and said, hey, they're available for pre-order now. So I walked into GameStop 15 minutes later and was the second person in the store to pre-order one.
Oh, Chris.
I'm getting one too.
Willpower.
Are you, Nate?
Yeah, so I have the Xbox One.
By the way,
one
Nate,
launch.
do you know anything about gaming?
A little. I think I played a game called Man Pack or something once.
Okay.
With a joystick thingy. No, I got Xbox One day one launch. I've always been a kind of Microsoft fan, and I've had a 4K TV for a while. And the first Xbox only had a 500 gig hard drive, which, if you think about only, but still, the new one's gonna have a lot more hard drive space and some other functionality that I'm really looking forward to. So not pre-ordering, but the wife has already cleared it as a Christmas gift, and that's why I married her. But yeah, so we'll have two, because we also, honestly, I only use my Xbox for gaming 30% of the time. We use it as a kind of a media center PC entertainment hub for a majority. Like our most of our television watching goes through it. All of our streaming goes through it. So we'll have an Xbox One in the bedroom, an Xbox One X in the living room, and I'll be the happiest video game nerd ever.
So do you play 4K Blu-rays, or do you plan to play 4K Blu-rays with the new Xbox One X? Because that's one of the other perks, is that and the S will also play the 4K Blu-ray discs.
I will. Right now, I have one 4K Blu-ray, but no 4K reader. So it's
Gotcha.
The first thing I'm doing is not going to play a game. It's going to pop in a movie and just stare at the wonderful beautifulness on my TV.
Yeah, I might have plugged John Wick in as soon as I got my Xbox One S plugged in just to see how well it worked, and it was pretty. It was pretty. I need to get Dolby Atmos speakers next and a Dolby Atmos surround sound setup, because the Xbox One X will support Dolby Atmos surround sound as well, and I want it because I love gear. I love it.
I want it, but I have to get really creative on convincing the wife. So send suggestions to my Twitter.
We should start a campaign. Maybe get SP to register a domain, because I know he'll do it. SP register a domain when you hear this. So that's gonna go ahead and take us towards the end of the show. Before we do our little plugs, I just want to take a moment to talk about the topic that we mentioned at the top of the show, the eclipse. That's right. It was the eclipse today, the solar eclipse. Many people do not remember the solar eclipse either. The last time it happened, they weren't in an area, or they just were too young, or there's a variety of reasons why a lot of people don't. This was their first experience with the eclipse. Now, let me ask you this. Which out of all of us three here, who actually got to see the eclipse today? I will start off and I will say that I saw the eclipse. I saw it by it getting dark. And then I looked out, and at work, somebody actually had brought a pair of the glasses, so I was able to look up and see it. So that was cool. Chris, did you see it?
I did. I stepped out at work about 2:00 and I looked up in the sky and went, oh man, that's a boatload of clouds. I can sort of see a glow through the clouds. And I got a little bummed out, walked back inside, came back out about 15, 20 minutes later. And lo and behold, the clouds had parted and there's just a ring of clouds around the sun. And I was able to put my Eclipse glasses on, look up and be like, oh, that's pretty cool. And I hung around until about 2:30 or so I could catch pretty much the max coverage. Went, okay, that was pretty cool. I'm glad I saw it for myself, and went back inside and went to work.
Nate?
We started off with cloud cover, but it was light enough cloud cover to where you could get pictures actually with a cell phone and actually make it out. Because with no cloud cover, when the cloud cover did go away, it was just a big bright light. So we were able to, we had the ability to see it in multiple ways. And a lot of people had glasses and everyone was sharing. We have a really kind of community-based work environment. So everyone was happily passing around the glasses. It was really cool. You see pictures and we saw stuff, an hour before on the Weather Channel, but to see it in person and kind of notch that off of the, I don't want to say bucket list, but life experience list is just kind of a cool thing.
So I was lucky. Cloudless day today, 90% coverage. I'm in the area that has pretty much the best visibility within Canada. And I'm just going to go ahead and steal what Neil said. And it is, quote, "It did not change my life." Quote, I agree. It was neat to see. I'm happy I saw it. Knowing what I saw wouldn't have been that sad if I didn't see it. It was kind of like, cool. There's something in the way of a light that it kind of looks like my desk lamp.
Were you a space nerd when you were a kid, though, Steven?
I was quite into space. So
really, huh?
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised then.
Yeah, I'm glad I can say that I saw it. If you were to say, Steven, would you rather have seen it or not seen it? It would be like, yeah, I'd rather have seen it. But I wasn't as fascinated, and I guess I don't know. I expected more with the light condition change. I know 90% is still 90%, is still 10% not totality, but I expected to see more. So I don't know. I expected it to be bigger, but better
question. Did you get superpowers after the eclipse?
Well, let's just say that I have turned green, but it may have been something I ate.
That's gangrene, man. You're gonna have to cut that finger off.
So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. Again, Stargate Pioneer is away today. It was the eclipse today, so we're pretty sure that it was all CGI. Pretty sure.
I'd like to make a point that I've never seen an eclipse and SP in the same room.
Oh, that's a fair point,
man.
Fair point. Suncast, though, he is a regular on here. He is from the GFQ network, where you can also find us, by the way. He did go, and he went down to 100%. So I'm looking so forward to talking to him, because he went to where it was 100%. I want to know more about that, because that might entice me to, 7 years from now? Again, there's supposed to be another one or something like that. I'm looking forward to seeing if he can entice me to care a little bit more.
2045, my house will be 100% totality in Florida.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'll be 70 years old, but I got goals now.
Well, and here's the thing about that is, at least people can just tell you at that point that you saw it and you'll believe them.
I'm good with that.
Did any of you guys watch coverage online about it? I watched like 5 minutes on CNN just because I was curious to see how they were going to present it. And they actually did like a 360-degree view. They had like a camera surrounded by a group of people in Oregon, so you could drag it around and see what the people were looking at and what they were doing, and then they kind of superimposed the eclipse over it. So when it hit totality there, everything got really dark there, and it was really cool to swing that camera around and just see kind of looks on people's face and hear them be like, whoa, and clap and things like that. So the tech that was used in some of these things to kind of share the eclipse with a wider audience, that was pretty cool too.
For sure.
Awesome. So that is going to go ahead and take us to the end of the show. Let's just go around the table and plug and promote what we would like to plug and promote. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, what am I going to plug and promote this week? I'm going to plug and promote the Gonna Geek Network. We've got a variety of awesome geeky nerdy shows there. We're continually growing, so give it a check. Go and check it out, rather. GonnaGeekNetwork.com. 23 different shows, I think it is. I'm pretty sure we're going to have some stuff you're going to like.
Awesome. Nate, do you have anything that you would plug and promote?
I do. So you can always find me at the Ninja Fat Man at Twitter. Talk a lot about games. If you like indie games, talk about that. If you want to learn about developing games, I follow some people and also do my own development. And I'll also have a podcast dropping in 3 weeks. I'm going to go ahead and launch it now.
That's so exciting. Woo!
Yeah. It's all about streaming services.
And
Interesting.
I am just going to go and plug the biggest event of my day. It changed my life. It is the Eclipse. If you missed it, it was one of the best things in the world.
Follow it at theeclipse.com.
No, but seriously, I just want to thank everybody who was on the Gonna Geek Gen Con panel this past weekend. I've seen some footage of it. I'm excited to dig a little bit more into it. And if you had a chance to see them in Gen Con, please send us a tweet. Otherwise, keep your eyes on the prize being YouTube, because you never know what will show up. But for episode 205 of the official GonnaGeek.com show, I'm Steven Jondrew.
I'm Nate the Ninja Fat Man.
I'm Chris, and I'm not doing visual gags our audio listeners don't get.
Yeah, who would do that? Terrible.
Who would do such a thing?
Terrible. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for checking out another episode of the GonnaGeek.com show. If you enjoyed it, please give us a 5-star review in iTunes or a thumbs up on YouTube. We encourage you to send your feedback by email to show@GonnaGeek.com. You can find our entire archive at GonnaGeek.com/show. And while you're there, why not check out all of the other geeky content on the Gonna Geek Network? Want to chime into our live chat? Join us Mondays at 8:45 p.m. Eastern at www.geeks.live.
The music heard on this show is by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com.
This show was produced and edited by Steven Jondrew of Gonna Geek Productions. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.